Hey, what's up? It's me, Lex, back at you with another class overview video. Today I'm going to be covering the Ranger. They're kind of an in-between of the more caster classes, the lighter caster classes specifically, and the frontline fighters like the fighter or barbarian. They are able to utilize animal companions and warden spells to their benefit, and we'll be getting into those as we go along. As well as that, they have the hunt prey action, where as an action, concentrating, they designate a single creature as their prey and focus their attacks against them. You need to either be able to see or hear the prey or be tracking them during exploration. So, notably, if you are able to identify the presence of something, you can designate it as your hunted prey before you meet it and save on these actions and take advantage of some features that we'll be seeing later before you even meet them. Against your hunted prey, you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks to seek and survival checks to track. You get to ignore the penalty for making ranged attacks within your second range increment against the prey you're hunting. And you can have only one creature designated as your prey at a time. Additionally, all rangers get a selection of a hunter's edge. The three options are flurry, outwit, and precision. Flurry is about making a lot of attacks. Precision is about making one big attack, and outwit is about kind of gaining a bunch of bonuses to skills and defenses against the foe. The three builds I have for you today are Run, a Flurry Ranger, Pulse, a Precision Ranger, and Pen, an Outwit Ranger. We're going to start off with Run here. Run is focused on running in with a dual-wielded bastard sword, or a two-handed bastard sword, to get that d12 damage dice. And then when enemies start running from them, they can release a hand off of their sword and start pelting them with shuriken, utilizing the ability to double their range increments to reach distances of up to 40 feet, and taking advantage of the flurry edge to lower their multiple attack penalty because shuriken are agile weapons. Getting into the feats. Run has to invest pretty heavily into dexterity and strength to be able to utilize thrown weapons like the shuriken efficiently, and so takes the toughness feat to increase their hit points. They're also going to be taking the battle medicine feat because as they will very often and easily have the ability to obtain an open hand, being able to heal themselves and their party members as an action is very helpful. And then they will be taking the Initiate Warden feat. This allows you to select a Warden spell, which is the Ranger's focus spells, from a small list that increases as you gain levels. They will be taking the Slime Spit Warden spell here, which allows you to, with two actions, within 30 feet, designate a creature. They make a reflex save, and then they take a very sizable amount of damage, 2d6 per rank, and they can become dazzled or even blinded. Finally, to get into what the Flurry Edge does, your multiple attack penalty when attacking your hunted prey is a -3 or -2 with an agile weapon on your second attack of the turn instead of -5, and -6 or -4 with an agile weapon on your third or subsequent attack of the turn instead of 10. And like all of the edges, the Flurry gets an upgrade at 17 where it becomes even more efficient in this regard. I will note this is not how I built it here, but it is for all attacks, not just strikes, which means that you can build a particularly effective grappling build or tripping build using the Flurry Edge because you'll be taking very small penalties to your follow-ups. As your fists are agile weapons, your second attempt to grab in a turn is only going to be at a -2 instead of a -5, like it would be for or a -4, like it would be for a normal player. At second level, Run is going to pick up Hunted Shot, which allows you to, as an action with the Flourish trait, so once per turn, when you are wielding a ranged weapon with reload 0, make 2 strikes against your hunted prey with the required weapon. And then if they both hit, you combine their damage for the purposes of weaknesses and resistances, which means you are not going to be able to double dip on a weakness, but similarly, you are going to be able to push through a resistance instead of getting hit with it twice. And this applies your multiple attack penalty as normal. I actually need to get into a little bit of a rules tangent here. The weapon that Run is utilizing for Hunted Shot is the Shuriken. It's a unique, one-of-a-kind item in Pathfinder. It is a thrown weapon with reload 0, which means that even when you are wearing it, you can use the strike action, and as long as you have a free hand, you can pull the Shuriken and throw it as part of that strike action. Now, the requirements on Hunted Shot are that you must be wielding a ranged weapon with reload 0, and if we go into the wielding items rules here real quickly, it designates, or it defines wielding an item as when you are holding it in the number of hands needed to use it effectively, and then goes on to say when wielding an item, you're not just carrying it around, you're ready to use it. Now, it is a perfectly fair ruling to make that as far as wielding goes, you would not be wielding a shuriken unless you are holding it in your hand, because it has a listed hand value of 1. However, I think that because it is a specific exception, it is an equally reasonable ruling for your game master to say that the shuriken is wielded as long as you have an open hand that you could strike with it, because you are ready to use it. It's really up to your GM's interpretation. I wanted to use shuriken here. They do have the uncommon traits, so if your game master does not allow that, you're going to want to take the unconventional weaponry feat to gain access to it using your ancestry feat. But as far as that goes, it is a very effective tool for being able to attack creatures as they're running away, and particularly, again, with your hunt prey, being able to change the range to 40 feet before you start suffering any kind of range penalties, because you ignore the first range increment. Finally, Run will be taking the Godless Healing feat, which increases the amount of hit points that they recover from treat wounds and battle medicine, and reduces the cooldown on battle medicine on them from 24 hours to only 1 hour, meaning that they can repeatedly heal themselves throughout the day, allowing them to, again, stay up on the front line despite their difficulties with constitution. As for gear, I've already gone into the Bastard Sword, two-handing it to get that damage bonus, and then dropping to one hand when enemies are running away to utilize the Shuriken. The Shuriken will be using Dexterity to hit and adding Strength to damage. But you will also use leather armor, have a buckler on the hand that you intend to be open when you release from your sword, so that if you have an extra action, you can get a little bonus to your armor class. And a standard adventurer's kit and healer's toolkit will leave 16 gold left over for Run. Moving on to Pulse, our level 5 ranger. Pulse has the precision edge, which means that the first time you hit your hunted prey in a round, you deal an additional d8 of precision damage, and this increases by another d8 at 11th and 19th level. Pulse is built around doing a large amount of damage to a single target once per turn, and being able to debilitate them while they're doing it. To such means, they also have an animal companion named Wisp that I will be getting into when we get to that feat. As for the skill trainings and initial pickups, Pulse is trained predominantly in charisma skills and dexterity. And you can see that here with deception, diplomacy, intimidation, society for understanding the social situations. And we'll be picking up the Bon Mo General feat. This allows you to choose a foe within 30 feet and roll a diplomacy check against the target's will DC, though they must be able to understand the language you speak. And depending on the results of your check, you give them penalties to their perception and will saves for a minute. This is a very good way to be able to support your allies, whether they are demoralizing or casting spells that target the will defense. And the creature needs to use an action to retort to remove this effect, which they're often not going to have the ability to do, or if they do, you've taken an action away from them, and you can always re-up this penalty against them. We're also going to be picking up the crossbow ace feat. When you are wielding a crossbow with reload 1 or higher, as an action, you can either create a diversion or take cover and then interact to reload. If you choose to take cover, you need to be meeting the requirements as normal, obviously. This is going to come in handy because being able to use creates a diversion, which I'll bring up here. As an action with the mental trait, you attempt to distract a creature or several creatures, and you compare your deception check against their perception DCs. On a success, you become hidden to those creatures, which can allow you to sneak away or just use that to keep them off guard. It'll last until the end of your turn or until you do anything except step or use the stealth skill to hide or sneak. But striking, they remain off guard. So this allows you to fool someone and then shoot them for off guard and, as we'll see in a moment here, additional damage. Finally, Pulse is going to take the Animal Companion feat, and the Ranger's Animal Companion is actually particularly potent compared to most Animal Companions. You get statistical increases a little slower, like the Mature Animal Companion feat, and I will bring up the rules for that here. Animal Companions begin off as young, and then they eventually increase into mature, and then either nimble or savage as you level up and use more feats to enhance their potency. They have the ability to use a support action as well, and they will eventually gain a advanced maneuver, though that is outside the scope of this video. Specifically though, the support action is an action that your animal companion can take, and in the turn that it takes this action, it can only use basic move actions with its other actions. So essentially you're not going to be able to get your animal companion in place and then have them strike and support. They need to be supporting and moving, and that's all. Moving back over here though, the thing that separates the Ranger's animal companions from the normal ones is that they gain the benefits of your Hunter's Edge as well. So in this case, the animal companion will also be dealing an additional D8 of precision damage the first time it hits your hunted prey. Moving over to Wisp to get into a little bit of the details here. Wisp is a bird animal companion. This is specifically for the support benefit and the 60-foot fly speed, because this allows Wisp to move in very quickly and get out similarly quickly. And the support benefit makes it so that until the start of your next turn, your strikes that damage a creature that your bird threatens, so within your bird's reach, also deal 1d4 persistent bleed damage, and the target is dazzled until that persistent bleed damage stops. And the damage increases if your bird is nimble or savage. This is an incredibly potent tool and way to debuff various enemies. You don't need to use this support benefit against the target of your hunt prey, which means that you can be stacking up some persistent damage, and particularly the dazzled, that's a 20% chance that a creature will just outright miss any attack that it makes that targets. As long as it is taking that damage, you can put that on multiple creatures. The bird is an incredibly potent tool for many rangers. And something else that I would like to point out with animal companions, because I feel this is something that's often overlooked, their statistics are lacking compared to the player. For example, here, Pulse has a plus 14 to hit and an AC of 22 and does 2d10 damage. Meanwhile, Wisp only has 20 AC, a plus 10 to hit, and only does a d6 of damage. But what really makes the animal companions particularly potent is not only their support benefits and just the various advantages that having another body on the battlefield gives you with being able to flank and such, but they are also an additional pool of hit points. As you can see here, 39 hit points compared to your own 63. You have almost added about, I want to say 60%, 2/3 to your health pool by having this creature up front, and particularly if the support benefit is grand enough that creatures are going to want to take out your animal companion, they're going to be focusing their attacks in this direction and not at the rest of your teammates. It's a very, very potent way to kind of pad the amount of hit points that your party has and prevent the more effective members, say your fighter or your barbarian or your wizard, from getting hit and going down if your animal companion is instead taking those hits. It will mean slower healing times, as you're going to have to spread it out across more targets, but it is very, very potent at being able to keep your entire party up on the battlefield, and I see this gets overlooked quite often. Anyways, moving on to level 2, Pulse is picking up the Gunslinger dedication. This actually doesn't give us anything particularly important at this moment, though it does give us training in stealth as we select Way of the Sniper, but it will be important at level 4. Continuing on at level 2 though, we take Eyes of the City, which allows us to use Diplomacy or Society to track creatures in settlements. This is important because this allows us to use our Diplomacy, which we're an expert in, to track creatures in settlements, and then while we are tracking, we can hunt prey against that creature, tracking the prey during exploration. So this allows us to start designating hunted prey, even in more social situations. Pulse, as opposed to many rangers who are very focused on the wilds, is very much so a ranger of the city, as you can see with all the charisma skills and these combinations here. At level 3, a skill increase into Deception is also met with Confabulator. This is a skill feat for Deception that reduces the circumstance bonus targets gain for your previous attempts to create a diversion or lie from +4 to +2. So this is going to allow us to use our crossbow ace reload, create a diversion as part of us reloading, to even more effectively continually get off guard. At level 4, we're going to take the basic shooting feat from the Gunslinger dedication, which gives us the crossbow crack shot feat. This is a particularly potent damage addition to crossbows. The first time each round that you interact to reload a crossbow you're wielding, including interact actions as part of any other reload, you get to increase the range increment for your next strike with that weapon by 10 feet and deal an additional precision damage per weapon damage die with that strike. If the crossbow has the backstabber trait and you're attacking an off-guard target, which is what we're attempting to do here with Create a Diversion, backstabber will deal 2 additional precision damage per weapon damage die instead of its normal effects. And so over here you can see the Arbalest. When you hit a flat-footed creature, it deals additional precision damage. So the combination of all of the things that we've built here is we're going to be using the crossbow ace feat to create a diversion, which should hopefully relatively frequently be giving us the ability to make our opponents off guard, even at range, which is giving us a +2 to our to hit effectively by making the enemy harder, making their ability to prevent us from hitting them harder. And we're going to be reloading our crossbow, which will give us an additional precision damage per weapon damage die. So in this case, that is 2. And boosting our backstabber to do another 2 per weapon damage die if the target is off guard, which means 3 per damage die, or in this case, with 2 weapon damage dice, 6 additional flat damage on a ranged attack. And that's all in addition to the extra 10 feet of range we get, and getting to ignore our first range increment. So in this case, this Arbalest could strike without penalty up to 240 feet away and be gaining a +6 to its damage bonus as it does so, as well as if it's our first attack in the round that is hitting, our Hunter's Edge benefit of an extra d8. This is going to stack a whole lot of damage, and especially with Wisp up front and being able to support us, we might deal an additional d4 of persistent bleed damage that is also dazzling the enemy. And Wisp can reach these distances or withdraw from these distances incredibly easily due to that fly speed of 60 feet. We're also going to be picking up the Fleeing Diversion feat here. When you critically succeed at your check to create a distraction against the majority of creatures, at least half of them, then you can use your reaction to immediately hide, sneak, or step. As normal, you're only hidden to creatures against which you succeeded on your check, even if you manage to hide or sneak away. So in this situation, this is just giving us a little bit of extra movement. Whenever we create a diversion and reload, we're able to step or sneak just to be able to move up to half of our speed. At level 5 here, we're going to be taking toughness because we have no constitution. We invested pretty heavily in some more supportive stats due to our backline status, and being able to be a little bit more resilient is pretty important. Although you could easily go for something like Clever Improviser. Untrained Improvisation gives you a bonus to all skills in which you're untrained equal to your level, and this lets you attempt skill actions that require you to be trained even if you are untrained. It's a very potent level 5 ancestry feat. But overall here, Pulse is going to be tracking people down predominantly in settlements, engaging in a lot of social situations, and be very, very capable of high range, high damage, high potency combat. As for gear, we already went over the Arbalest and its abilities to do immense amounts of damage because of the backstabber trait on it. We have leather armor to maximize our dexterity, a standard adventurer's pack, and a healer's toolkit is going to be met with healer's gloves, which, while we are wearing them, we get a bonus to medicine checks, and once per day, we can touch someone with the gloves to soothe them, healing a little bit of hit points. As a backliner, it's going to be pretty good to invest into the ability to heal our teammates, or ourselves. And finally, the ventriloquist's ring, which gives us a bonus to our deception checks. When we're attempting to create a diversion, this is very important. And we can even once per day use the ventriloquism spell with its activation. Moving on to our final ranger here, Pen is an Outwit ranger, and for this one I wanted to kind of focus in on the benefits of Outwit. I think it's an often overlooked Hunter's Edge because what it has is not as glamorous to many as reducing your multiple attack penalty on the flurry or dealing extra damage with precision, but the ability that it does have is a +1 circumstance bonus to AC against your prey's attacks, so this is equivalent to constantly having a buckler raised, and a +2 circumstance bonus to deception checks, intimidation checks, stealth checks, and any checks to recall knowledge about the prey. That is a lot of very sizable bonuses. These are all the same as a critical success to aid you from an ally, but you get them automatically against your prey. Mostly social checks, as you see here with deception and intimidation, though it does have the stealth checks and the recall knowledge as well. And notably, we have the animal companion feat. It has to be said that, again, this is shared with your animal companion, which means that they are also going to be tankier with the circumstance bonus to AC. And if they do end up being able to demoralize or attempt to hide, they're going to have bonuses on those as well. We're going to be taking the armor proficiency feat so that we can outfit ourselves in heavy armor here. And we are going to take the animal companion feat grabbing Pin, our bear companion. Bear is a very sizable, very tanky animal companion. As you see, 71 HP to our 106, and we have a +4 in Constitution. Means that we are almost doubling our hit points here by having Bear on the front line, and by combining our attacks with Bear and utilizing either its attacks or its support benefit, we're going to be drawing aggro to both of us. And it has to be said as well that Bear is capable of attempting to grapple enemies. But Monster Hunter is the other class feat that we take at level 1. As part of the action used to hunt your prey, you can immediately attempt a check to recall knowledge about your prey. And when you critically succeed at identifying your hunted prey with recall knowledge, you can tell your allies to immediately give them and yourself a +1 circumstance bonus to your next attack roll against the prey. And you can only give these bonuses once per day against a particular creature. So, generally speaking here, as I doubled down on, the ranger really wants to try to track their enemies down and be able to hunt prey before they meet them in combat. Not that they're going to be particularly weak if they are leading off a combat with a hunt prey, but being able to recall knowledge on something just by being able to track it, and then giving yourself and all of your allies bonuses on your first attack rolls against it, is very, very potent, and Monster Hunter is an amazing feat to exemplify this playstyle. At level 2, Pen is going to be taking the Martial Artist dedication and the Titan Wrestler skill feat. Martial Artist allows you to do an addition, or to change your fist unarmed attacks to a D6, and it is no longer going to take a penalty for making lethal attacks. And Titan Wrestler is going to allow us to disarm, grapple, reposition, shove, or trip creatures up to 2 sizes larger than us, or 3 once we become legendary in athletics. At level 3, we're going to increase our athletics proficiency to expert. We're going for kind of a grappling build here, trying to lock creatures down and get them to attack us. Because we have the outwit edge, we're going to be particularly defensive against them. And we're going to be taking the Intimidating Glare skill feat as well, so that we are able to demoralize our foes, even if we don't share a language with them. Even though our Intimidation skill is lacking in proficiency due to not investing in Charisma, the Outwit's bonus to Intimidation checks is going to be making up for that very handily. That +2 means that we're going to have a much better chance at succeeding. At level 4, we'll be taking Disrupt Prey. This is Reactive Strike, but for your hunted prey. Whenever your hunted prey is within your reach and uses Manipulate, Move, or attempts to leave a square during a move action, you can make a melee strike against it, and if the attack is a critical hit, you disrupt it. Attack of Opportunity, or Reactive Strike, is just an incredibly strong feat, being able to get an attack off every round that is not incremented by your multiple attack penalty, as well as being able to use your reaction in general, is always very important. I try to emphasize it in my builds, and so this is going to be very good, particularly for a grappler, because it means they're going to be disincentivized from attempting to escape us anyway. They'll spend, say, an action attempting to escape, and then an action attempting to move away, at which point we can hit them, and we might be able to disrupt the triggering action. Of note, the Disrupt Prey is a little stronger than Reactive Strike because it disrupts the triggering action regardless of what it was, whereas Reactive Strike only interrupts Manipulate actions. So we can stop our prey from moving away from us by hitting them, or critically hitting them with this reaction. We're also going to be taking Underwater Marauder. Pen has had some struggles with creatures that are amphibious, and the campaign is kind of leading towards going underwater, so they're attempting to invest in these skills to take advantage of them. At level 5, Pen will be taking the Fleet feat, gaining an additional bit of speed to counteract the fact that they are wearing heavy armor, and being able to keep up with their prey if it does decide to run is very, very important. At level 6, Pen will be taking the Mature Animal Companion feat. Animal companions require feat investments to keep them particularly relevant in combat. As you can see, there is still a deficit as far as Pen is concerned, but they're not useless even if you don't invest these feats. The Mature Animal Companion feat gives your animal companion some bonuses to their statistics and allows them to use a single action to stride or strike, even if you do not spend an action on your turn commanding them. And it has to be said that as far as animal companions go, their weaker capabilities are also offset by the fact that being able to spend an action commanding them and get 2 actions of their own back is another reason that they're incredibly potent. It adds on to the end of this that it can take that 1 action at any point during your turn, but if it does, that's all the actions it gets that round, so you can't command it to split up the actions that it will gain. We're also going to take the Natural Medicine skill feat here. We're not trained in medicine, but we are trained in nature, and the Natural Medicine skill feat allows us to use nature for treating wounds, as well as for, and this depends on how you read it. I will read it verbatim here quickly. You can use nature instead of medicine to treat wounds, including higher nature proficiency, letting you attempt more difficult checks. It doesn't replace medicine for uses of the skill other than treat wounds or for feat prerequisites. Some people read this as the Natural Medicine skill feat does not allow you to take feat prerequisites. But as far as I understand it, as far as I read it, this means that you can use Natural Medicine to qualify for feat prerequisites that would otherwise require medicine. So if you are an expert in nature and you have Natural Medicine, you should be able to take Continual Recovery and Ward Medic and use Treat Wounds with those abilities using your nature skill. You will still not be able to take, for example, Battle Medicine, though, because it is not Treat Wounds. Additionally, it has an effect at the bottom here. If you're in the wilderness and you have easier access to fresh ingredients subject to the GM's discretion, you can get a +2 circumstance bonus to your checks to treat wounds using nature. This is just a very flavorful addition onto the bottom here. Finally, at level 7, that last skill increase going into athletics is going to land us at a very solid +18 with all of our gear. This is going to mean that we will be incredibly potent at being able to lock creatures down. Between this and disrupt prey and the fact that they're going to struggle to hit us more than usual with outwit and our heavier armor. And we'll be taking the quick swim feat to swim farther on successes and critical successes, and eventually when we become legendary in athletics, gain a swim speed equal to our speed. Again, a tangentially aquatic campaign means that these feats are going to be particularly effective, and Pen has a vengeance to carry out against some aquatic creatures that wronged them in the past. As far as gear goes for Pen here, they utilize their fists because they are primarily a wrestler. The martial artist dedication means that the damage is not going to be lacking in this regard, but that does mean that they will have hand wraps of mighty blows worn and invested. They will also have a lifting belt to increase their athletics skill, an ash gown, which is a very interesting gown you can wear. It is formal wear spun from smoke, ash, and char, collected from the plane of fire. It gives you resistance to fire, 5 resistance in specific, and a bonus to intimidation checks. And it also lets you once per day, as a 2-action ability with the manipulate trait, stride and then make a strike at the end of your movement. And during the stride, you do 2d6 fire damage to all creatures that are adjacent to you at any point with a DC 23 reflex save. Creatures don't need to make the save more than once, even if you move past them multiple times. This is just a really, really fun ability on an already decent item, because while it doesn't offer any action compression, it not being action negative means that this is just a boost onto something that you were likely already going to do. Move towards someone and attack them. Finally, the standard Healer's Toolkit and Adventurer's Pack is complemented by some cognitive mutagens. These are interesting elixirs that you can drink that give you bonuses to all checks to recall knowledge and make it so that you cannot critically fail your recall knowledge checks. This is notable because critically failing a recall knowledge check gives you incorrect information, and as a secret check, you're not able to know if you got a critical failure or not. So the idea here is that you would drink that and then hunt prey while you were tracking something to ensure that if you get any information, it's going to be useful information. And the bonuses as well are going to make up for the fact that we're not able to invest super heavily into our arcana, nature, occultism, or religion, which is what most recall knowledge checks in the game are. Second would be society, and then below that would be things like crafting. Overall, I think that the Ranger is a very fun class. They are very honed in on their hunt prey action, which makes sense. And I think that the ability to utilize it during exploration mode is something that a lot of people overlook or perhaps need to take more into account when creating builds or creating concepts or even creating games for their Ranger players to engage with. The various benefits that it can give you with your Hunter's Edge are very, very interesting, and each of them provide a platform on which you can build a unique sort of character and concept. And I think that the fact that it adds on to your animal companions' capabilities is incredibly interesting. Animal companions are very, very strong features in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, despite not being able to contribute on their own merits as much as, say, another teammate would. Being able to absorb a lot of hit points, provide flanking, provide unique support benefits, or in the case of even, say, over with Pulse here, just the 60-foot fly speed with Wisp means that there's a lot you can do with animal companions. There's a lot you can do with ranged attacks. A lot of people struggle with them because they don't get flat bonuses unless they're thrown. I tried to demonstrate a few ways here that you could take advantage of that with things like thrown weapons with the shuriken, or say the crossbow crack shot on crossbows. And I wanted to show off as well how potent the Outwit Edge can be, because a lot of people overlook it for the other two. Ranger is a really fun class. I would also suggest that if you're going to go into higher levels, you take some more deeper looks at the Warden spells that are available. If I just pop in the Advanced Warden here, you can see that there is a huge list, even at the 4th level feat, of spells you can gain access to. And a lot of these are situational, but just as many of them are incredibly potent and provide a lot of utility to your team. Things like being able to make your animal companion large, things like being able to boost your first attack of each round even more. On Pulse would likely enjoy this. Things like heal your companion. This is just the heal spell, but only on your companion. But as a focus spell, this is an incredible amount of sustain, increasing the hit point pool that they have even wider. There is a large variety of things that the Ranger can do, and even though they're not spell casters in and of themselves, they can produce a lot of utility in the same way that spellcasters can. I would recommend giving them a look next time you're interested in building a character, and don't get too caught up on the idea that maybe they're set specifically in a wilderness environment, or the general notion that they have some kind of favored terrain. That's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments down below what you would like to see next time. I will see you on the next one. on the next one.